Have you ever noticed something small, something so small it almost didn't register, in an elderly loved one? Maybe your mom started repeating a story she just told 5 minutes ago. Maybe your dad, who always loved his Saturday walks, now avoids getting up from his favorite chair. Or maybe your grandmother, once full of laughter and appetite, suddenly just didn't feel like eating anymore. At first, you didn't think much of it. After all, aging comes with changes, right? We all slow down a bit. We all forget a thing or two. But then, a few weeks or months down the line, something happens. And it hits you, those small changes. They were signs. Subtle whispers from the body and mind, trying to tell you something important. You see, the body rarely screams when it starts to decline. It whispers. And if you're not listening, if you're too busy, too distracted, or simply unaware, you'll miss the chance to catch something before it becomes too late to change the outcome. And that's why this video matters. Not to scare you. Not to overwhelm you. But to help you understand, so you can act with love, clarity, and peace of mind. Because recognizing these subtle signs early, whether in your aging parent, your partner, or even yourself, can completely change the quality of those precious final years. It can mean the difference between decline in silence and living the rest of your days surrounded by care, dignity, and connection. So, if you're someone who's been quietly worried, or maybe even ignoring that little voice in your head saying, something's off, don't go anywhere. Because in this video, we're going to walk through 7 hidden signs that doctors don't always mention, but that speak volumes about how long someone might live after the age of 70. And number 5. Well, let's just say almost no one sees it coming. This isn't about playing doctor. It's about paying attention. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, is to notice. And if you find comfort in videos like this, real, heartfelt, and helpful, go ahead and subscribe to Elder Mature Moments. We're here to walk this journey with you. Every step of the way. Let's start with the first hidden sign, and it's one that's easy to miss because, well, it doesn't come with any noise. It's when someone who used to love being around people, suddenly, doesn't. Think of someone like Mr. Johnson. He was always the life of the domino table at the local community center. Every Saturday, like clockwork, he'd show up with his cap tilted just right, a gentle smile, and a pocket full of stories. Everyone knew him. Everyone loved him. But then, one weekend, he didn't show. And then another weekend passed. And another. His daughter thought maybe he just needed some rest. Maybe the weather was bad. Maybe he was getting bored with it. But something deeper was happening. Because you see, when someone who's always been social suddenly begins to pull back, avoiding visits, skipping group activities, staying quiet during family dinners, that's not just a personality change. That's not just age. That's a red flag. Social withdrawal can be one of the earliest signs of things like cognitive decline, depression, or even heart failure. The body and the mind start to work harder to do even simple things, so they begin to conserve energy, often by pulling away from people. And emotionally, when someone starts feeling like they can't keep up, or they're embarrassed by forgetting names or words, they retreat. Silently. Slowly. The heartbreaking part? Most families don't catch it until much later. They assume, well, Grandpa's just getting older, he needs more quiet time. And that's understandable. But sometimes, that silence is really a cry for help. A quiet signal that something in their body, or in their spirit, is changing. So, what can you do? Don't push. Don't overwhelm. But do create space for connection. Invite them into gentle, low-pressure conversations. Sit with them on the porch and talk about the past. Call them just to hear how their day was. Small interactions, real, loving, consistent, can do more than any medicine. And sometimes, it's not about getting them back to the domino table. It's about reminding them that someone still cares to ask. But while pulling away from people is one sign, there's another one, subtle, quiet, and so often missed, that hides right in plain sight. Let's talk about that next. Now, I want you to picture this. Your mother, years ago, always moved with a kind of graceful speed. Whether she was bustling around the kitchen, tending to her garden, or walking through the store, there was purpose in her steps. Not rushed. Not slow. Just confident. Balanced. But now, you notice something. Her pace has changed. She pauses more often. Her steps are shorter. She reaches out to steady herself on the wall or the edge of a chair. And when you ask if everything's okay, she smiles and says, "Oh, I'm just being careful." You know how it is. And so, you nod. You accept it. Because it seems harmless. Because it's easy to say, well, she's just getting older. But what if I told you that something as simple as how fast someone walks can quietly predict how long they might live? According to research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, walking speed in older adults is more than just a reflection of muscle strength. It's a direct window into overall health, heart function, brain coordination, muscle stability, and even mental well-being. See, the act of walking. It's not just about legs. It's a dance between the brain, the nervous system, the heart, and the body's sense of balance. And when one of those systems begins to weaken, even slightly, it often shows up in the way someone moves. A subtle wobble. A shuffle where there used to be a stride. A hesitation before turning a corner. But here's the problem, most families don't notice. Or if they do, they tell themselves, she's just trying not to fall. And while that might be partly true, what's really happening could be a sign of neurological changes, circulatory issues, or even early cognitive decline. The body. It speaks. But it whispers. And walking, something we do without thinking, can reveal the quiet truth of what's going on beneath the surface. So what can you do? You don't need fancy equipment or medical training. Just watch. Observe. Is their walking slower than it used to be? Do they avoid stairs? Do they stop to catch their balance more often? If so, gently suggest a gait assessment during their next checkup. It's simple. Non-invasive. And it can catch things before they become bigger problems. And in the meantime, movement is medicine. Encourage low-impact activities, something soft on the joints but good for the soul. Tai Chi. Light walks with music. Even water aerobics, if available. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. And confidence. Because when someone walks with confidence, it doesn't just improve their lifespan. It improves the quality of their life. But not all warning signs are so physical. Some hide in the tiniest cracks of our daily routines. Let's take a closer look at that next. You walk into the kitchen, and the scent of cinnamon still lingers in the air. Grandma's favorite, peach cobbler, fresh from the oven. It's always been her comfort food, the one thing that could light up her face even on her roughest days. You serve her a warm slice, just the way she likes it, a dollop of cream on the side. She smiles faintly, picks at it with her fork. Then pushes the plate away and says, "I'm full, sweetheart." And you pause. Because this isn't just about cobbler. This is about something deeper. See, when someone who once lit up at the sight of their favorite meal suddenly loses interest in food, it's easy to think, maybe she just wasn't hungry today. Or, maybe her taste is changing. And while sometimes, sure, that's all it is. Other times, it's the body waving a little red flag. A sudden loss of appetite in older adults can point to a number of hidden concerns. It could be sensory decline, where taste buds dull and food no longer excites the senses. Or it could be something internal. Like organ stress, where the liver, kidneys, or digestive system aren't functioning like they used to, making food harder to process. It might even be a sign of depression, where the joy of eating fades because the joy in general is slipping away. And here's the part most people get wrong: they try to fix it with more food. They cook more meals. Bigger portions. Stronger flavors. They sit at the table and say things like, "Come on now, just a few more bites." And they mean well, because it's coming from love. But sometimes, that pressure adds more stress than comfort. It turns meals into a battlefield instead of a moment of connection. So what helps? Gentle flexibility. Instead of pushing for full meals, try offering small, nutrient-dense snacks throughout the day. A few bites of soft fruits, a warm cup of broth, a smoothie with protein and vitamins blended in. Let them eat when their body tells them it's time, not when the clock says it should be. And most importantly, make mealtimes about togetherness, not consumption. Sit with them. Talk. Laugh. Sometimes, just being with someone is more nourishing than the food itself. Because when the appetite fades, it's not just about food. It's about listening. Paying attention to what the body might be trying to say without words. But food affects the body in motion. What happens when the body stops moving? When energy disappears, even after the simplest tasks? That's what we'll talk about next. Ms. Lee has always been a woman of rhythm. She wakes up early, folds the laundry, sweeps the floor, hums to her favorite old records while she washes the dishes, just like she always has. But now, things are different. She finishes the dishes, and then curls up on the couch for a nap. She waters a few plants, and then says she needs to lie down. And when you ask how she's feeling, she shrugs gently and says, "Just tired lately. You know, age." And maybe you believe her. Maybe you tell yourself, of course she's tired, she's in her 70s. That's just how it goes. But, is it? Here's what most people don't realize: fatigue, especially when it's sudden, or doesn't match the activity, is not just about growing old. It's a signal. A quiet tap on the shoulder from the body saying, something's not right. And it can be more serious than it seems. Excessive fatigue could point to anemia, where the blood isn't carrying enough oxygen. Or thyroid issues, where the body's metabolism gets out of balance. Or even heart strain, where the heart struggles to pump effectively, making even light tasks feel like heavy lifting. The danger is, fatigue doesn't scream. It creeps in. One slow afternoon at a time. And it's so easy to ignore because tiredness feels normal. But severe fatigue that lingers, especially without much physical effort, is never normal. Not even in the elderly. So what can you do? Start by not brushing it off. If you notice your loved one needing naps after simple chores, or sleeping more than usual, suggest a gentle checkup. Ask the doctor for basic blood work, iron levels, thyroid, heart function. It's non-invasive, and it can uncover issues before they become dangerous. And in the meantime, think small, simple, and consistent. Encourage hydration. A glass of water every few hours can do wonders. Expose them to natural sunlight. A little time outside can boost energy, mood, and even sleep quality. And just as importantly, listen when they say they're tired. Because sometimes, honoring their need to rest is the first step toward helping them feel strong again. Fatigue tells a story. But only if we're quiet enough to hear it. Next. Let's talk about a sign that doesn't show up in the body, or even in movement. It shows up in the words someone says. And the ones they forget. Uncle Joe leans back in his chair, smiling as he begins to tell the story of how he once snuck into a baseball game back in '63. You've heard this one before, just last week, in fact. But today, he tells it again. Same pauses. Same punchline. Same proud grin. And when he finishes, 10 minutes later, he starts again. You smile. You nod. You even chuckle at the right moment, because it's Uncle Joe. He's always been a storyteller. Always had a way of keeping everyone entertained. But deep down, a quiet question begins to form. Is this just him being himself, or is something changing? Because while it's easy to laugh it off or blame it on age, repeating stories or forgetting common words can sometimes be more than just forgetfulness. It can be the first ripple of something deeper. Now, don't get me wrong, some memory slips are completely normal, especially as we grow older. We all lose track of keys, forget a name, or walk into a room and wonder why we went in there. That's life. But when someone begins repeating the same stories over and over, or when they search for simple, everyday words like plate or television and just can't find them, that could be the beginning signs of cognitive decline. More specifically, it can be the early stages of dementia, and yes, even the beginning stages matter. Because subtle cognitive decline doesn't just affect memory. It often shows up first in communication, planning, and emotional regulation, long before anything more obvious appears. And this is where families often make a painful mistake. They say things like, "Oh, he's always been a little forgetful," or "That's just Uncle Joe being Uncle Joe." But by doing that, they sometimes miss a chance to catch something early, when small changes and early support can still make a meaningful difference. So what can help? It starts with attention. Not judgment. Not panic. Just gentle observation. If you notice patterns, repetition, word-finding struggles, confusion in conversations, begin to create small, daily moments that stimulate the brain. Crossword puzzles. Simple word games. Photo albums. Reminiscing about the past doesn't just feel good, it strengthens memory recall and emotional connection. And more than anything, let them talk. Let them feel heard. Let them feel safe being who they are, even if words don't come as easily as they used to. Because our stories, even when they're told more than once, deserve to be heard with patience, not pity. But memory and words aren't the only places where hidden signs show up. Some signs aren't spoken or walked. They're felt, right in the center of the chest. In the quiet ache of the heart. Let's talk about that next. You sit beside them on the couch. Their favorite show is on, the one that used to make them chuckle every single time. But now, they just stare. No smile. No reaction. Just silence. You suggest a walk, a game, maybe calling an old friend. They shake their head. No, not today, they say. But it's been many days like this. And somewhere inside, you begin to wonder, where did their spark go? When did joy stop showing up? This is where we need to pause and look a little closer. Because one of the most overlooked, but most serious, signs of declining health in older adults isn't physical. It's emotional. Persistent feelings of hopelessness, disinterest, or apathy, when nothing seems to excite or engage them, can be an early warning sign. Not just of depression, but of neurological changes, too. And yes, these symptoms, if ignored, have been linked to lower survival rates in seniors. Why? Because when the heart and mind begin to give up, the body often follows. Now here's the heartbreaking part, many people mistake this emotional flatness for something normal. They say things like, well, she's lived a long life, maybe she's just tired of it. Or, he's just old. What does he have to look forward to anymore? But let's be very clear. That mindset is dangerous. Because emotional decline is not just part of aging. It's a signal. A cry from the inside out. And more often than not, it's treatable. So what can you do? Start small. Begin with routine. Waking at the same time. Gentle stretches. A warm cup of tea in the morning sunlight. A familiar rhythm helps restore a sense of control and safety. Then, add connection. Not overwhelming visits or big social outings. But one phone call from a grandchild. A shared meal with an old friend. A conversation about memories that make them smile. Even these small touches can reignite purpose, even in a weary heart. And most importantly, don't let them go unnoticed. Apathy is silent. It won't complain. But it's begging for someone to see it, and to care enough to respond. Because when someone no longer feels excited to live, the body listens. But when someone feels seen, when they feel connected, loved, and needed, hope has a way of quietly returning. And finally, there's one last sign. One that hides in the routines, in the overlooked corners of daily life. It's so subtle, most people miss it completely. And yet, it just might predict everything. Let's explore that next. You notice the mail stacking up. Envelopes from the electric company. The bank. Maybe even the pharmacy. You glance at the calendar. Medication was supposed to be refilled last week, but the bottle's still half full. You open the fridge, just a few condiments and an expired carton of milk. Nothing planned. Nothing prepared. At first, you don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe they just forgot. Maybe they've been tired. Maybe they're just having an off week. But as the little things start to pile up, you realize, these aren't just small oversights. They're signs. Signs that something deeper might be shifting. See, there's a part of the brain called the executive function. It's what helps us plan, organize, make decisions, and follow through with everyday tasks. And it's one of the first things to quietly fade when someone's health, especially cognitive health, begins to decline. Paying bills. Remembering appointments. Managing medications. Even things like planning meals, keeping the house stocked, or writing out a simple to-do list, these all require coordination, memory, and focus. And when that coordination begins to slip, it often shows up not in dramatic ways, but in small, repeatable patterns. And here's where the misunderstanding happens. Most families look at these changes and think, she's just being forgetful, or he's always been a little disorganized. But when you start seeing more and more tasks being missed, things that used to be second nature, it's time to look deeper. Because what you're witnessing might not be just a memory issue. It might be a quiet loss of independence. Now, I know that's hard to hear. No one wants to admit that someone they love is struggling to keep up. And more than that, our loved ones don't want to admit it either. Because acknowledging it means facing a reality that's frightening. Maybe I'm not as sharp as I used to be. Maybe I need help. But help doesn't have to mean helplessness. There are ways to gently support without taking away dignity. Start with small systems, a large print calendar, visual reminders, a digital alarm for medications. Help automate finances if possible, set up auto-pay for bills, organize statements, simplify spending. Even consider assisted services, like meal delivery, home check-ins, or trusted companions who can offer support without hovering. And most importantly, have the conversation. Not out of fear. Not out of control. But out of love. Because when someone starts losing their grip on daily life, what they need most is someone who notices. Someone who steps in, not to take over, but to stand beside them. These signs may seem small on the surface. But together, they paint a picture. A picture that helps us understand where our loved one is, and how we can meet them there with grace, patience, and care. Because preserving independence isn't about doing everything alone. It's about doing the right things, together. And now that we've uncovered all 7 hidden signs, let's bring it all together. Because what you do with this knowledge, starting today, could change everything. Watching someone you love begin to fade. Not suddenly, but slowly, In the way they walk, the way they speak. The way their eyes lose a little bit of sparkle, it hurts. It's the kind of pain that doesn't always have words. A quiet ache you carry in your chest when you realize that the strong, vibrant person who once carried you now needs you to carry them. And it's confusing, too. Because these changes aren't always loud. They don't come with sirens or warnings. They sneak in through the little moments. The forgotten appointment. The untouched dinner plate. The silence where laughter used to live. And all the while, you ask yourself, is this just age? Or is something really wrong? The truth is, these signs we've talked about, they are serious. They are real. But they're not just warnings. They are invitations. Opportunities, hidden in plain sight, calling you to lean in, to love harder, and to care smarter. Because what if noticing these signs? What if gently stepping in now could be the one thing that changes everything for someone you love? You don't need all the answers. You don't have to become a nurse, or a doctor, or an expert. You just need to be present. To pay attention. To ask the hard questions. To offer the soft comfort. So if you've recognized even one of these signs today, whether in a parent, a spouse, a neighbor, or maybe even in yourself, don't brush it aside. Make a call. Have a conversation. Schedule that checkup. Or simply sit down beside them and ask, how are you really feeling these days? Because sometimes, just showing up is enough to pull someone out of the shadows of decline and back into the light of connection. And listen, even if it feels like it's too late, like too much time has passed. It's not. It's never too late to bring dignity back into the picture. To offer warmth instead of distance. To show someone that they're still seen. Still valued. Still loved. You have the heart. Now, you have the knowledge. And together, you can make these years, however many there are left, full of the things that matter most: peace, compassion, and presence. That's what makes the difference. That's what lasts. So, let's take a moment to gently look back at what we've uncovered together today. The 7 hidden signs that can quietly predict how long someone might live after the age of 70. Not loud signs. Not dramatic ones. But quiet, powerful shifts that speak volumes if we're willing to listen. We talked about withdrawing from social life, when someone stops showing up for the things they used to enjoy. We noticed changes in walking speed or balance, subtle shifts that can reveal much more than just getting older. We explored a loss of interest in food, even in lifelong favorites, because sometimes, a full plate left untouched is telling you something the body can't say. Then there was excessive fatigue, not just tiredness, but a kind of deep exhaustion that lingers long after simple tasks. We looked at repeating stories or forgetting words, not with judgment, but with awareness that memory changes can be early signs of deeper cognitive shifts. We reflected on hopelessness and emotional numbness, the kind that steals joy and connection, often hidden behind a polite smile or a soft, "I'm fine." And finally, we reached trouble managing everyday tasks, the unpaid bills, the missed meds, the empty fridge. Not just forgetfulness, but perhaps a slow slipping away of independence. These signs, they matter. Each one is a whisper from the body, from the mind, from the heart. And together, they give you something powerful: clarity. Not to fear the future, but to face it with open eyes and open arms. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these signs have you seen in someone you care about? Have you ever looked back and realized something small you ignored was actually something big? Share your experience in the comments. Let's hold space for each other. Let's learn, support, and grow together, because you're not alone in this journey. And if this video brought you comfort, or gave you insight, or simply made you feel seen, consider subscribing to Elder Mature Moments. This is what we do: real talk, heartfelt stories, and honest guidance to help you care for the people who matter most. Because aging isn't just about what we lose, it's about what we can still protect, cherish, and share. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Thank you for listening, not just to me, but to the people in your life who need you to notice the quiet things. Stay loving. Stay aware. And remember, your presence might just be the best medicine someone ever receives. I'll see you in the next video.